Yeah, in the back.
Would you agree that President Obama's initial plan not to put U.S. boots on the ground to fight ISIL has changed?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the first part of your question.
Would you agree that President Obama's initial plan not to put U.S. boots on the ground to fight ISIL has changed?
Would I agree that his original decision not to put U.S. boots on the ground to fight ISIL has changed?
That's correct.
What's happened is that, so first of all, let me back up. The president has been clear from the very beginning as commander-in-chief that we're not going to fight a large, sustained combat counterinsurgency effort in Iraq or in Syria against ISIL. He never said there was never going to be U.S. boots on the ground. And as a matter of fact, there's more than 3,000 U.S. troops in Iraq right now in a training, advising, and assisting capacity. The additional special operations forces that the Secretary of Defense has talked about, and which Secretary Kerry fully supports, which will be operating. There will be a small expeditionary force that the Defense Department's already talked about in Iraq, and then there will be some. There are some small number in Syria as we speak, are largely an extension of that same mission: train, advise, and assist. Now, that said, the Defense Department, and I don't want to speak to military matters too much, but the Defense Department has said that there will be a component of their job, these special operations forces, that would include conducting raids and assisting indigenous partners in combat that they are conducting against ISIL. So it's very much consistent with the original mission set given to U.S. troops that have been assisting indigenous partners against ISIL. But nothing has changed about the Commander-in-Chief's very clear direction that this isn't going to be a long, sustained U.S. ground operation or effort against ISIL.
Do you think that the 3,500 troops and more on their way is not a big ground operation? Do you?
It's not when you consider the scale of the kind of force presence that we had in Iraq up until 2011 and what we had in Afghanistan. Certainly nowhere near what we have in Afghanistan now, which is just under 10,000. So it's not on that scale, and that's the scale that we're measuring it against. Again, I really don't want to talk about military matters, but nobody's underestimating that 3,000 is still 3,000, and that U.S. troops are are doing important work against assisting others against a very dangerous enemy. We're all mindful of that, and not to mention that you have pilots and air crew that are also flying combat missions over Iraq and Syria. I think everybody understands that the importance of that. But it's nowhere near the scale in terms of troops that we have seen in the last 14 years in both Iraq and Afghanistan. It's much smaller than that. And I think, as we used to say, it's not just how many you have, it's what they're doing. And it's very clear that the mission for our troops against ISIL is the same mission it's always been, which is to help degrade and destroy this organization by helping build the capacity of indigenous partners on the ground, both in Iraq and in Syria. Okay.
It's also clear that those are boots on the ground, right now.
Well, I'm not disputing that there are U.S. troops on the ground, but nobody said there wouldn't ever be. What was made clear was that the mission wouldn't be a large, sustained ground combat operation against ISIL, and we aren't doing that. That is, nothing has changed about that, not one bit.
John, I just wanted to, if you could clarify the use of the term expeditionary force. It's a mouthful.
Expeditionary.
Expeditionary.
You just say it slow. It rolls right off.
Expeditionary.
There you go.
Okay. So is it intended to expedite? I mean, is that what is
no,
it
expeditionary?
As a military man, explain to us the difference.
Expeditionary means that the mission, and the units applied to a mission, are being deployed someplace other than where they're based, for usually a limited amount of time and for a very discrete mission set.
So it is mobility, right?
It does, part of being expeditionary is being agile, it's being flexible, it's being mobile, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so they could strike, let's say, here one day, then move another 400 miles and strike.
Well, I mean, it's
In
about
theory.
it's about being mobile, yes, it is, but I mean, I wouldn't get into specific operational parameters.
And so how come this was never used